Hello! It's been a minute, a hot minute, since we've been together to talk about God's Word in video. But I am hoping to get back to this on a more regular basis. And today, I thought we would talk about my least favorite book in the Bible, and that's Judges. Now, all of you that know me know that I am, Hallmark-loving, joy-filled. I call myself a joyologist. Joy-filled, sparkly, shiny, glittery kind of girl. And Judges, none of that. Like zero of any of that. And the chapters that we're going to focus on today are 19, 20, and 21, the last chapters of Judges. And they are pretty horrific. And there's a lot there to unpack. And we're not going to get into all the everything because there's so much. But I do want to talk about the Levite that completely goes unnamed, who is from the hill country of Ephraim, and he has a concubine, and she's not a wife, but he clearly cares about her because she's unfaithful, and then she goes to stay with her family. So after about 4 months, he goes to get her, and chapter 19 is just this long piece about her dad trying to keep him there longer than seems natural. And I'm not sure why this is. I have a lot of ideas, and all of my ideas come more from a modern time, and I haven't really dug into the culture and why that might be. But my ideas come from maybe, they just wanted their daughter to stay longer. I mean, as a mom, that makes sense to me. Maybe they wanted to check out this Levite and make sure he was good enough for their daughter because they are her parents. Maybe he just had a sick feeling in his stomach and was afraid for them to leave, as parents sometimes do. Maybe it's none of this, I don't know. But whatever, it was kind of weird. So then they finally leave, and in 20, they go to, they don't go to Canaanite because he didn't want to go there because he knew he would not be greeted with any kind of hospitality. So they went to the area where the Benjamites had settled. And they were just going to sleep in the courtyard, and then get up and go the next morning. They are within their own nation. They didn't think anything of that, right? Well, an older gentleman comes and he invites them into their home so they get the hospitality that he was hoping for, the Levite was hoping for, and he goes and he stays with them. Now we get into shades of Genesis when Lot sent his virgin daughter out to a group of men that wanted Lot to come out. And so these men come, and my understanding is these men are leaders. They are Benjamite leaders, and they come to this home and they want this man to come out. I'm sure everyone knows what they wanted to happen. And the host takes a step back and says, no, I want no part of this. And he's going to send his daughter out, kind of like Lot. And the Levite has the courtesy to say, I will send my concubine out. And I don't think the daughter went out, and the concubine went out, and she was brutally raped repeatedly throughout the night and beaten. She made her way back to the home and was on the doorstep when the Levite went to get her, and unconscious, dead, she did die at some point, either was already dead or died on the way when they were going back home. When he gets home, it gets even crazier when he dismembers her and sends her body parts to all the tribes of Israel, except I'm sure the Benjamites. I'm sure he didn't send it there. So now he has caused civil war. Now, in this story, he talks about what happened to the concubine, but I don't think he mentions why she was out there. So he has caused a civil war to happen within Israel. Here's where it gets interesting for me. These people live in anarchy. Every chapter ends with, there was no king. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. Anarchy. There certainly had been judges that had come in, some strong, that did good things, but when they died, they went right back to their old ways. A lot of the judges weren't even strong. Even though they might have had success, they showed themselves not to be strong leaders. So they are all upset, and they're going to go after the Benjamites. But in this moment, they choose to seek God. And he says to them, and they sought him 3 times, and he says to them all 3 times, go, yes, go. Now, the first 2 times they were not successful and they lost people. The 3rd time they were successful. Then chapter 21 talks about, after they're successful, they make this oath to God that they are, that they make this oath to God that they need to, they can't marry any Benjamite women. Sorry, they can't marry Benjamite women. But then they decide they need to, so they come up with a way around it so that they can, which just goes back to the whole, this is a crazy world that they are living in. But what really, there were 2 things that struck me about these passages. The first was, obedience for us doesn't always look like we think it's going to. It doesn't always get us the outcome we want. Sometimes it's only about being faithful, and they were faithful. And the 3rd time they did get the outcome they wanted. But more importantly, what I love about these verses and these 3 chapters is these people had been living their own lives the way they wanted to, not seeking God, not caring about God, not having anything to do with God. But when they went back to him, he was faithful to them. He answered them when they asked, and eventually he gave them what they wanted. I'm not pretending that we're always going to get what we want when we go to God, and that obedience isn't always going to look like what we think it's going to look like. But the most important thing that I take from this is God is always faithful and waiting for us to return to him when we scatter away for just a short time or even a long time. He is always faithful.